Time and time again, crypto investors continue to make exactly the same mistake, and we're seeing a repeat of history once again. In today's show, I'm going to show you exactly what that signal is that you need to be looking out for. I'm going to show you what the outlook is for the future of cryptocurrency in the short term, the medium term, and especially over the next 12 months. There's a lot of significant data at hand, which we need to have a look at. Smash the like button, hit the bell notification, and subscribe to the channel. And let's get straight into the show content. I do want to start off with Banter bubbles just to see if there's any major outliers. I see Tons putting in a little bit of a move over here. DYDX as well also up. Tau not so much over there. Hourly chart trying to put in a bounce on the hourly, but the weekly, most of the coins are still suffering, and then the monthly is still red, and this does provide a major opportunity. So we're going to have a look at this. I'm going to show you why it's a major opportunity and why now more than ever you want to stick around. You need to make a pledge to yourself that you'll be here each and every single day, because the next 12 months are going to be life-changing, and I have the data to prove it. So stay tuned until the end. We're seeing one of the things we've been planning for and looking at for a very, very long period of time, and that's the DXY breaking below this dash line over here at 102.160. Remember, when the DXY breaks down, this usually signals a risk-on signal for the markets, where you start to see stocks rally, gold rally, and then lastly crypto rally as well. That signifies that money is flowing out of the US dollar into other currencies, and usually it's due to a risk-on environment. So we're going to have a look at this in just a moment, because it's not all said and done yet, right? First and foremost, we planned to break below the gray box territory over here on the DXY. That was the previous range high. You can see the way that price was capped at this range high all the previous times, broke back above, held it as support, rallied towards the upside. So that was an important level to clear. The other important level to clear was the mid-range over here of the parallel channel, which now we've spent enough time underneath. But the thing is, if you look at the previous times we did that, it did rally, right? So the question is, will we get a repeat of that and spike up one more time, wrecking the bulls for the final time? Because remember, if this moves towards the upside, the bulls within crypto and risk on assets will get wrecked. That's where those usually drop towards the downside. We spoke about the significance of this trend line over here, which could be the final tipping point, which will hold price on the DXY towards the upside. Well, right now we are breaking below that, and that's why we marked that out as a significant level. So multiple candle closes below the pink box over here. That was your perfect SR flip on the DXY, pushing towards the top side into that 103.6 region, rejecting off that, coming back down. And now what I would love to see over here is a couple of daily candle closes below the dash line at 102.160. If we do see that, then we can say that with high confidence, we're probably not going to hold this as support, but instead we're going to be breaking down to lower levels. And the breakdown to lower levels, which we've been planning for literally months now, will ultimately bring new liquidity back into the crypto markets. I'll show you the volume profiles. We're also having a look at that to see if some newfound volume can come back into the market. And due to this, this was just one of the many reasons why we were, of course, having a look at the S&P 500 and looking for the long trade over there, which we took over here at 5319, 5,319 points on the S&P 500. You can see there's our green line entry, and this is what the picture looks like. So that was the trade that we took on Prime XBT, the long trade. Ever since taking that trade over there, you can see prices are up 4.72%. Now, for the crypto bros and girls out there, I know that might not sound like a massive amount, but when it does come to the stock markets, these are big, big numbers, adding back trillions of dollars into the market. We spoke about that last week. I think it was somewhere in the region of $9 trillion that came back into the market just off this small bounce over here. And the expectation is still that we'll have trend continuation on the stock market. For those of you who took the long trade alongside me over here on Prime XBT, well, I would say that you can probably hold this long trade for at least 2 more weeks. So we'll wait for another green weekly candle close, probably somewhere near those highs. And then the next week following that, breaking into new all-time highs for the stock market. And the question is, will crypto follow, right? Because right now crypto is lagging. It's lagging both the stock market and gold. And this is not completely uncharacteristic of Bitcoin and crypto in the months of August and September, which we'll speak about in just a moment. High time frame wise, you can see we're still perfectly on track in terms of our trajectory to reach the ultimate timing cycle top anywhere between August and November of 2025 as a relatively conservative date. We've seen every market cycle top where the RSI has pushed above the 80 line over here, which is the white line running across, and usually it rejects from the downsloping trend line on that RSI. And right now, we're very, very far below that, with the RSI sitting all the way on the monthly scale back down to 60, giving a much needed reset for the market to form that strong base and continue onwards and upwards. We also had a look at the Gaussian channel on the weekly time frame, and what we showed over here is from the moment the Gaussian channel turns green to the point where it puts in the all-time high is anywhere between most likely 100 to 120 bars. And if you do mark it out between 100 and 120 bars, that's going to put you again somewhere between that August and November time period, which is exactly in line with what we have marked out over here. What that means is that dips are for buying, right? It's just a question of how you're going to allocate your capital into those dips. Right now, we have the price bouncing pretty much off the top band over there from the Gaussian channel and looking for a marked move to break this downsloping trend line, which has been intact for quite some time. And as mentioned, from a seasonality perspective, it's not uncharacteristic that Bitcoin will struggle in the months of most notably July, August, and September, and then you'll start to rally in October. And that's similar to the summer doldrums, right, where a lot of the US are on holiday. They close their brokerage accounts for the at least the summer holidays, and when they come back, that's where volumes start to tick back up, and that's where you start to see newfound momentum and strength coming back into the market and prices moving towards the upside. So there it is. Currently, you can see if you look at the summary of August, well, the median is that it's going to be negative 8.34%. And if you look at September, median is negative 5.58% with an average decline of 4.78%. So for the most part, it's not good months for crypto, but that creates a great time to be allocating into the market while everybody else is fearful. And then you go into October and you can see on average 22% towards the upside, November 46% towards the upside, and December you have a little bit of a flat month once again. So these are things to look forward to, and while everybody else is complacent and not in the market, this is exactly why you who are here watching right now are likely to outperform the majority of people who tend to go away from the markets, because as our friend Warren Buffett says over here, be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. So I think that's some very, very wise advice. And what we have seen is if you take a look at that fear and greed, well, we actually reached all the way down into extreme fear for the first time literally since the FTX collapse. This was the FTX collapse right next to my head on the left-hand side. If you look at the price over here, this is the price chart of Bitcoin as it's pushed towards the upside. And that reset in a bull market is a very, very telling sign. And that's probably where you want to start to look to allocate. And fortunately for most people, the price has not V-shaped recovered out of here, which means that it still creates an opportunity for you to find enough time to allocate, because it takes time for people's psyche or psychological mindset to catch up to what's happened when we do have these major dips. And then they realize, well, when I actually have a look at all the data, maybe I shouldn't be as fearful as what I currently am, because it does actually present an opportunity in the long term. And this is one of the signals that most people will miss until it's too late, right? Because what tends to happen is only when prices do push back up and the fear and greed gets back into the 60 to 70 zone, which is where their feelings feel all nice and comfortable to start to re-enter into the market. At that point, prices are already up significantly near all-time highs once again, and that's where they start to re-enter. And they probably do still catch some of the upside momentum, because this is the nature of a bull market, is you get these parabolic advancements towards the end. Remember the Pareto principle, which is the 80-20 rule, which simply says that 80% of the gains will be made in the final 20% of that bull run, which is yet to still come. And consequently, they'll still make a little bit of upside, but because they haven't been in the market long enough, they'll think that it's going to go on much, much, much longer than it actually is, and they'll end up giving up all of those gains. So this is the one signal that I really recommend all of you study and focus on, because if you do go back and you actually have a look at it on a chart, you can see what wonderful buying opportunities it presented each of the time times, right, that we hit those levels, you got major bounces and continuation as denoted by the yellow circled lines on the orange line over here, which is the Bitcoin price, and on the bottom over here is the actual fear and greed index read. So the fear and greed index has now officially bounced back to about 28. We went down as low as 24, and it's something to look at. You can also correspond that with the aggregated funding rate, which simply shows how much money people are paying to have open interest, right? To basically have leverage positions on the table. Remember, the exchanges don't give you those leverage positions for free. You pay interest on those leverage positions, and interest is usually cheaper or even negative when nobody wants it, right? When nobody wants to take the long trade because the fear and greed or you've dropped into extreme fearful levels, then sometimes you actually get paid to be long. And you can usually see that when the funding rate goes negative, which I've allocated on the chart over here with a purple line. These are the previous times we saw where the funding rate was negative. Was COVID at $3,812. Price, of course, rallied. We're at this time period over here where people are thinking that it's a major bull trap and we're going to be going down to new low levels, and price broke out of that previous all-time high range at $11,000, and then we went absolutely parabolic. You had the massive leverage flush and correction, everybody shorting the market over here, leading into a major pump, and then this one, fair enough, did end the bear market, or end the bull market, excuse me, and start the bear market, which is where price bounced pretty much from that $41,000 low all the way up to $52,000, and then you could have shorted all the way through. But we understand when to take these signals seriously and when not to, and that's based on the timing cycle. And as I've shown you, as per the timing cycle, we're looking at least another 12 months, possibly even 12 months on the exact dot before the cycle actually does come to an end. Now, within this cycle, we had negative funding in the FTX collapse. Bitcoin came down to $15,500 and rallied. We had the USDC-D peg, you can see over there, 19,544, and price rallied. And then we had the most recent one, which on the weekly just managed to ever so slightly close green when they aggregate all the daily data together. But if you look isolated on a daily time frame, the funding rate actually went negative over here, and that was the yen cash and carry trade at $49,000.55, where we had that exact wick low. So now you're looking for major signs and symptoms to suggest that maybe the price is going to start to reverse from here. And one thing that we are studying very, very closely is the daily exchange volume. When we start to see the daily exchange volume tick towards the upside, we'll know that the momentum is beginning to shift. And if we look at it over here on a 1 month scale, you can see, or maybe a 3 month scale is a bit better, it is starting to slow down from that major dump towards the downside and attempting to turn a little bit of a corner over here and move back towards the upside. That's not the only thing we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of other confluent factors, which I'm going to bring up in just a moment. At the end of the day, we are still in a no trade zone if you have a shorter term horizon, but if you have a high time frame thinking perspective, this is still a wonderful opportunity to allocate for the final shakeout. I would label this as the final shakeout before the next big breakout. Could we go lower? Of course, we can always go lower. I'll give you the validation and invalidation levels in just a moment. But for those of you out there who do want to further your education, you want to learn a little bit more, I do want to remind you that we begin in 2 days and 5 hours. That is going to be for Whale School. It's my entirely free cryptocurrency course over here on how to trade the markets, how to read the markets, and how to time your entries. Now, you can see over here, a lot of people have been trying to jump in, so much so that the school site is actually down temporarily. So please just bear with us. Click the link below, pause the video if you want, sign up while you still can, because people are flooding into this, and I think we may already be full. Now, we're looking at price now below the resistance levels. These remain unchanged from last week. It's still all exactly the same. Really, you want to see price get above $63,000, which is going to be this top white line over here. That will break you above the resistance levels over here, which is key levels based on the weekly candle open, closes, and wicks, as well as getting you back above the 21-week exponential moving average. Now, what's most likely taking place over here, at least in my humble opinion, is that you're probably following a trajectory very similar to this, right? Price in this point in time did break below the 21 weekly exponential moving average, and we spent a little bit of time underneath this before eventually breaking back up, back above it, and then going absolutely parabolic. As mentioned, for those of you out there who maybe are a little bit more fearful, you can wait, right? You can simply wait for confirmation. You won't be risking too much, but in the sense sense of if you just copy and paste that, timing wise, you can see it looks very, very similar, right? Once we lost it over there. Where did we start to reclaim it? Well, we reclaimed it. That would make it it's similar to reclaiming next week back above these levels. And that's all you have to wait for. You can wait for the reclaim of $63,000. As soon as you get a candle close above that, that will start to signal a risk on signal again. And maybe, just maybe, it's the DXY that will give us that break towards the upside. While this comes down, we expect crypto might start to push back up. We have the fair value gap over here, which we hit, and we're still below the key moving averages, which have now flattened out significantly. But I told you, wait for Monday. We're getting the bull moon. We hit the bull moon over here. So the expectation is that the next 15 days or so, we should see price at some point within that 15 days higher than what it is right now. And you can feel free to go back and test the validity of this bull bear moon thesis, right? So you can see when you get the bull moon, price goes up. When you get the bear moon, price goes down. And I pretty much take it seriously when you are at a key level, especially when it lines up with the timing factors. Right now, you're holding above your pivot level, which is going to be your yellow line over here at 58,519. And that just means simply that the RSI and the daily time frame is trending towards the upside. So we're not out of the woods yet as bulls. I told you again, if you want to be careful, if you want to be safe, just wait for one of the extremities to hit. This would be one example. Again, breaking above $63,000. We can probably just move this up ever so slightly since it's been delayed, but you're looking for a move up like that, break and hold above, and then you know that it's a real move taking place if you can close multiple candles above $63,000. Alternatively, wait for the bears to take over and send price back down towards $53,000, which is going to be into your range low over here. It's as simple as that. Okay. Continuing on over here, you do have price still below the 50 and 200 EMA on your 4-hour time frame. Your liquidity has slightly moved down because the short traders are now trailing their stop losses down. This becomes a lot of additional liquidity. It's sitting at $60,000, and you can actually see it over here. If you go into Whale Room, which is our Discord, we update every single day the deltas, as well as you can have a look over here at the liquidity levels on the actual order book. But in terms of the deltas, this simply means that more people are short than long right now, and that's pretty much unanimous across the board. Almost every single coin out there, you can see deltas on Bitcoin, on ETH, on Solana, and if you go to the bottom and you have a look over here at the deltas on Bonk, on WIF, and on Pepe, all of those are negative, which means that the market maker probably will send price towards the upside at some point, because that's where the liquidity resides. Market makers tend to drive price towards liquidity because they have such big orders to fill. The only way they can fill those is by taking the liquidity from the retail traders, which is where the retail traders stop losses are at the moment. So just another viewpoint, giving you the weekly time frame with the heat map view of where the liquidity is. If you look at the 3-day time frame, it's the same thing, and if you look at the daily, it's also the same thing, showing you exactly where that liquidity resides. So if you are wanting to take any of these trades, remember guys, we do have exchange links below to a whole consortium of different exchanges. This is for CoinW over here. If you do want to register to a non-KYC exchange, they are one option, and depending on how much you deposit, you can get up to $30,500 in sign-up bonuses. And that brings me to the next point. If the market does follow the timing perspective that I've outlined, remember, the final 20% is where the biggest moves take place. And this is where you see the altcoins running the hardest, most specifically the newly listed coins, right? The IDOs. So remember, we do have a competition called the Banter Bags giveaway, which simply means if you just go through to the YouTube link below, you'll see it's all listed below. If you sign up to any of these links that are in the YouTube description below, it will qualify you for the Banter Bags. The Banter Bags is where we invest into IDO seed round allocations, so VC investment rounds, which most of you can't get into. We'll put $1,000 into each of those ones that are offering us the opportunity to. And typically in the peak euphoria phase of the bull market, these things literally do between 100 and 300x return, which means $1,000 becomes a minimum of about $100,000. At the end of all of that, we give it away. How do you get into that? The link is below over here, and it shows you what you need to do. You need to sign up to any or of these exchange links listed, or all of them if you want. The more you do, the more at least entries you have. And once we hit 1 million subscribers on this channel, which is why you need to subscribe to this channel. Currently we're at, I believe it's, there we go, 964,000. That is where we're going to start to give those bags away, and 350,000 on the Banter Plus channel. So that is there for you. Now, coming on to Bitcoin dominance over here, which you can see is nearing the apex of this rising wedge formation. It's also nearing the resistance level at 60%. There's going to be an imminent breakdown within the next couple of weeks to months, expecting it to follow this sort of a trajectory. And remember, when this does break down, that's where your altcoins start to run. Now, when alt season, because I covered this on a Saturday show, this is the current state of the altcoin market when it comes to the psychological phases. You guys all know the Wall Street cheat sheet psychological phases. You can Google it if you want to see it, where you move through those various phases of thrill, euphoria, complacency, bounce, and then you go down into panic, fear, anger, depression, etc. This has been what the altcoins have felt like for the most part, range bound between anger and depression, anger and depression, anger and depression. It just goes on and on and on as they bleed out against the Bitcoin pair. But when alt season, right now we're strong into Bitcoin season. When this starts to turn towards the upside and most altcoins start outperforming Bitcoin out of the top 100 altcoins, that's usually when they deem it to be alt season. And you usually need to see that happen for about 90 days consecutively. But I don't want most of you to be left behind and enter too late when most things have run too hard. So the question is, when alt season? If you appreciate this information, by the way, guys, smash the like button. Please like this video. Also share it with a friend, rather now than when it's the end of the cycle and they absolutely get rinsed because they joined too late. So I did a little bit of digging, and this is basically what I found. I always find it very interesting to look at the timing factors in relation to the halving cycle, which typically creates a bit of a supply shock to Bitcoin because the reward that miners get divides in two, and it's mathematically programmed in to technically drive price towards the upside. And I just think that Satoshi Nakamoto, of course, the creator of Bitcoin, must have been one of the smartest people that ever lived, not just because of the, at least the protocol that they created or the network that they created, but it's almost as if they had an understanding for the liquidity cycle, because the liquidity cycle tends to turn up right about now following the halving cycle, which leads into the election years. And the halving cycle is always coinciding with those election years, which we know is coming up in November. And it's an incredibly interesting thing when you study it. But what about altcoins? Well, if you have a look at this over here, I simply marked off from that halving cycle on total 2, which is going to be all the cryptocurrencies included minus Bitcoin. So it's everything minus Bitcoin. And what we found over here is that the first cycle from the halving date to the exact cycle peak was 539 days or 77 bars, right? So keep that in mind. If you go to the next one over here, what we saw is also 546 days or 78 bars. So we have 77 versus 78. Now, it's only 2 data points, but we have a lot more information that we can use with Bitcoin to work these things out. Point being over here is that if you do mark off this level, where does this line up? Please go back to the beginning of the video and consider what I spoke about with the Gaussian channel and the monthly scale chart. Well, this would line you up for October 2025 for potential top. If you follow that same trajectory, that is going to be from the halving cycle to the top 77 bars, right? 77 weeks later. If we go into total 3, we have obviously less data points, but it's pretty much going to follow exact, right? From the halving cycle to the exact top over here, this is where your true degen coins run. It's all the altcoins minus Bitcoin minus Ethereum, and the market cap increased all the way up to 78 bars later, and the market cycle topped. And if you fast forward to where we're at now and you extend that all the way through, again, October 2025, it's the exact same point, which means that there's good times to come, right? So make a pledge to yourself that you'll be here each and every single day. Write it in the comments after the show. Let me know. Are you going to be here each and every day? I'll go back and read all of those comments. You need to make a commitment to yourself if you truly want to make the life-changing money. It's the same thing as succeeding in any sport in the world. You need to show up each and every single day to the gym. Even if it's a recovery day, it might just mean a little bit of stretching or a slow cardio session to recover, right? It's very, very important that you're here each and every single day if you do want to succeed. Now, if this is to break out, well, we can see we need firstly the proper reversal from here. We need to break above that previous lower high section, which is going to be 659 billion on the total 3 market cap. That should break you back up into the premium zone over here, which is going to be your yellow area. And if you do get into this zone and grind into that, we have a measured move that will break us out of this long-term rectangle consolidation up to 1.25 trillion. I spoke about why from this current level to the top, you could be looking at the potential for at least an 8 to 10x return on the market cap for at least total 3, right? That was in a previous show. So keep an eye out on that. Now, all you need to do to not fumble the ball and to make life-changing money is to stay here each and every single day. That's point number 1. The second thing that you need to do is allocate into coins that are strong, which we're going to look at in just a moment's time. Coins that are not losing against Bitcoin or Ethereum. At least ETH is losing against Bitcoin. So always just match up against BTC or ETH, whichever one's the strongest one, and make sure your altcoins are in an uptrend against those. And then pretty much just manage that position. And then third and finally, all that you need to do is protect your capital, right? I can't tell you how many messages I receive specifically as we move into that final 20% of the market cycle, which is where I told you most of the money is made. 80% of your gains will be made in the final 20% of the run. Go and Google the Pareto principle, Pareto effect. Go read the book, the 80-20 principle or 80-20 rule, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, what typically happens is the scammers come in full force. They'll be copying my name. They'll do things, a lot of different things where they try and hack you, or they convince you that they have a secret trading fund. Remember, don't ever give your crypto to anybody. You custody your coins, keep it safe. And for the coins that you do have on exchanges, remember to protect your IP address, guys. You can use any VPN that's out there in the world, Proton, NordVPN, whatever it is that you want. Remember, we have a partnership with Nord, which gives you a special. You do get an extra 4 months. You're also getting a 73% discount. There is a link below. It's a coffee a month, literally a cappuccino a month, $3.37 per month to protect your IP address from hackers. Please at least have any VPN, even if I don't want to say a free one, at least have a paid one. A free one is a little bit dodgy. And then also secondly, have a ledger, right? Use a ledger. This is the newest one that came out. You don't need to spend, at least this is in AED because I'm in Dubai, but this would be the equivalent to $500 US. You don't have to have that, right? You can get something like this that's about $100, or this one over here, Nano Ledger S Plus, which is even cheaper than that. That's about $70, $80, but protect your capital, guys. Custody your own coins. They're going to be coming for you. The hackers will be in full force, and they are very, very sophisticated and smart, especially with the rise of AI. All the links are below. We don't have a major special on Ledger. We're not even partnered with them. But if you do want to use my link, it will help. Maybe they'll give us a deal if people start using it. And then, of course, for NordVPN, we do have a special that is listed below. Okay, so that's when alt season. Now, which are the strongest coins? We've been looking, of course, over here at Sol ETH for quite some time. And this has been the talk of the town when we're starting to break out. And we said, don't chase price, just wait. There could be a deviation. And then we got the deviation. But the question is this a confirmed deviation, or is this going to be a higher low in the making? Because this is a real possibility that you might just see a higher low and trend continuation, something like that. So keep an eye out on that. As price grinds into this region over here, if you can start to see risk starts to switch towards the upside once again, so risk on for the markets, you'll probably see this starting to form a high low, and then the break and hold above here will confirm it. Alternatively, you'd really just need to wait for closing candles. I'll probably zoom in just to showcase you this a little bit better, but all you need to do is wait for closing candles similar to Bitcoin to clear you out of the range. So I'm going to draw a box around it. This is really your range levels when it comes to the Solana ETH chart. So if it breaks above the top of the green box over there and closes a daily candle above, you can say higher lows confirmed, and Solana probably keeps moving upwards and outperforming ETH. If it closes below the bottom over here, well, then you can say that the deviation is fully confirmed and it's going to come for this level next, which is 0.049. So there's Solana against USD. You want to see it break above the $164 region to get back above the mid-range and continue with its trajectory of strength. I want to quickly touch on Casper. Let's see anything interesting over here. I'm not sure if you're going to get the move back here. Just like Bitcoin, the rest of the market is range bound. If you do get one more dip down into 14 cents, possibly as low as, just above 13, 13.9, great opportunity, I think, to load up on Casper. Let's see how TON's doing. TON showing some signs of strength, breaking back above the mid-range, which is 650. Remember, our leveraged bets on TON is going to be these ones over here. We have resistance dog, number 1. That's the one trade that we have. And then the other one that we have, we'll wait for that to load up. We'll double check the chart. So there we have it. Broke out of the falling wedge formation. You're looking for high low to form somewhere in this region over here. And then the other one that we have, which is a much lower market cap, I see it's up 6% today, is resistance cat. So don't get left behind. It's looking good. We need to reclaim back above 47 cents over here on resistance cat. Those are our TON leverage bets, right? Let's talk a little bit more about the does it bleed coins, right? So are these coins outperforming Bitcoin? Well, if you have a look over here at Solana, we've spoken about this as a strong one before. For the last 6 months onwards, it's been outperforming Bitcoin. For the last day, it's been outperforming Bitcoin. But in the last week to 3 months, it's kind of been flat against Bitcoin. So very important that Solana does start to pivot and reclaim some of those key levels. What about ETH against BTC? Well, you can see for the most part, we know ETH against BTC has been doing nothing but bleeding. Let's go to TON coin as well. TON coin against BTC, very, very strong. It's been up only against BTC for literally pretty much since inception. Okay, next one over here I also want to have a look at is maybe TRX, because TRX has recently been strong. Most people deny it because they don't like Justin Sun, but you can see in the last 3 months, it's up 31% against Bitcoin. TRX is one of the strong coins to look at. Let's see if they have over here Banana. There we go. We have Banana Gun. This is one that I outlined as a strong one as well. And if you look at that, it's been up as well against Bitcoin 145% since the initial move that started to take place. And in the last week alone, it's up 43.6% against Bitcoin. So those are some of the strong ones. Link, although it has very, very favorable protocol in the sense that it's integrated with almost everything out there, this has been terrible against Bitcoin. In the last 5 years, it's down 24%, which means you could have just bought Bitcoin for a much low risk trade with much higher upside potential. Okay, let's go into some of the meme coins over here. How's Shiba Inu done? So let's see Shiba Inu. In the last couple of years, of course, massively up, but in the last 3 months down, the meme coin sector has been hit pretty hard. We can have a look at some of the other coins like Brett. How's Brett doing against Bitcoin? All right, Brett, so 3 months up, but the last month it's down 40%. When the market goes risk off, meme coins tend to get hit the hardest, right? So you'll start to see as Bitcoin breaks all-time highs, you can expect most of these meme coins will also continue to pump, right? Casper, let's have a look of Casper against Bitcoin. Everything is pretty much up over here on Casper. The last week up 1.51%, last month 3%, last 3 months 46%, and over the last 2 years it's up 2,312% against Bitcoin. So again, if you do want to learn more about this, again, we cover everything in here in Whale School, how you can trade against the BTC pair, how you can trade against the Solana pair. Remember what our friend Warren Buffett says, be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful, right? Just ignore the part where he called Bitcoin rat poison squared. Other than that, I think he's got some pretty solid advice. And if you do want to dive into, of course, Whale Room with us, remember, this is where we're going to drop all of the various different trades. I actually just updated them today on some new DGen calls that I dropped this morning. That is also listed below, and we are updating the institutional chart section for you daily. And then, of course, you have all my other information. I also trade, by the way, if you have a look over here at legacy markets, this is where we dropped, of course, the initial S&P 500 trade. And then I've recently been looking at Tesla, by the way. Tesla is something I'm looking to allocate into for the long term, and that is your Tesla chart. So all of that's there. I hope you all have an absolutely stunning day. I'll see you all on the next one, and cheers for now.